Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. Progressive victory tonight. We've already had it, and in fact, we already celebrated with Bernie Sanders. We had an interview with him earlier in the day. We are going to show you a clip from that interview later in this program. Have I mentioned that members get everything?
And if you are a member, don't miss the post game today. I am going to go off.
Ooh.
If you are a woman especially, I think you're going to enjoy the post game.
No.
Yeah.
tyt.com/join. Okay, like I said, a little bit portion of the Bernie Sanders interview later that I conducted earlier today, because it's about a great victory for American workers. And against literally the richest man in the world. They said he couldn't do it, but he did do it. And a huge shout out to Ro Khanna as well. So we'll talk about that later. Okay, Donald Trump, it turns out I was wrong. I had always said that he got $40 to $200 million from his parents. And sometimes I would winkingly use the $200 million number. Wrong. We'll tell you what he actually got from his parents and whether it was ill-begotten later in the program. That's a devastating story. Okay, but you know what? We're filled to the room with devastating stories today. So without further ado, Anna Kasparian.
All right, let's do it. In a breaking story yesterday, there was a report indicating that Brett Kavanaugh had specifically reached out to former Yale students in an effort to debunk Deborah Ramirez's allegations prior to the New Yorker story being published. Now, keep in mind that he reached out to them, and we know this through text messages prior to the New Yorker story being published. That's a relevant fact, okay? Now, with that being said, I just want to quickly give you the details of those text messages, what those messages contained, and then talk about how there is evidence of perjury. That's a serious problem, and the utter hypocrisy coming from Republicans on this very issue. Now, in the days leading up to a public allegation that Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh exposed himself to a college classmate, Deborah Ramirez, the judge and his team were communicating behind the scenes with friends to refute the claim. Text between a woman by the name of Carrie Burkham and Karen Yarosavage, both friends of Kavanaugh, suggest that the nominee was personally talking with former classmates about Ramirez's story in advance of the New Yorker article that made her allegation public. So Burkham did speak to the press about this, and the main reason why she spoke to the press about it was because she was trying to get these text messages to the FBI as part of their investigation, but she was having trouble getting to them. She was having trouble submitting this evidence to them or getting a response back. So Burkham says in her memo to the FBI that Kavanaugh and or his friends may have initiated an anticipatory narrative as early as July to conceal or discredit Ramirez.
So I want to be clear about something here. His testimony was on September 25th. The New Yorker article was on September 23rd. The text messages, at least some of them, are very clearly from September 22nd. Before the New Yorker article comes out, Kavanaugh is reaching out to classmates at Yale, trying to get them to side with him instead of Ramirez. So that is going to be enormously relevant to the perjury. Now, but as Anna just told you, they actually apparently knew this for months on end. Some of this trying to discredit his accusers goes back to July, which goes to a question we've been asking that I really haven't seen almost anywhere else. Okay, so this is what Kavanaugh knew, and that's devastating. And I was led to believe by Republicans perjury is monumentally important and in our impeachment grounds. But who else knew? Did the Republican senators know? And that's a very good question. There's references to Brett's team. Who was on Brett's team? Did it include people talking to the Republican senators who might have known about these allegations for months? And to be fair, it's not that they didn't do anything about them. Apparently they were busy behind the scenes, so at least some people were trying to discredit the women who they knew would be coming forward.
I would like to know why Mitch McConnell wanted to dissuade Donald Trump from choosing Brett Kavanaugh as the Supreme Court nominee. Now, the media reports at the time argued that McConnell wanted to dissuade Trump because he was very concerned that Kavanaugh had an extensive record and there were too many documents to go through, and that it would just take too long, and he was concerned. No, documents? Really? That's what Mitch McConnell was concerned about? And we know what were in his previous decisions as an appellate judge. We know all of that. And none of it was out of the ordinary in regard to what a conservative judge would decide or do. So why did Mitch McConnell want to dissuade Trump? I thought that that was strange. And given what we know now, I would suspect that McConnell knew that there were other issues involving Kavanaugh. Now, with that said, though, we now have evidence indicating that Kavanaugh knew about Deborah Ramirez's allegations prior to the publication of that New Yorker piece. Now, when Senator Orrin Hatch asked Kavanaugh about Deborah Ramirez's allegations, it appears that Kavanaugh lied under oath, and we have evidence of that. So let's take a look at the first video. Again, this is Senator Orrin Hatch speaking to Kavanaugh during the hearing.
When did you first hear of Ms. Ramirez's allegations against you?
In the period since then, in the New Yorker story.
Did the ranking member or any of her colleagues or any of their staffs ask you about Ms. Ramirez's allegations before they were leaked to the press?
No.
Oh, it's fascinating. It appears that he lied there.
Yeah, that's a clear lie. So, look, I think it's a super clear lie that Devil's Triangle is a drinking game and all the other things that he clearly, to any rational human being, is not telling the truth about when it came to all of his descriptions of what he did in high school and college. But you can make an argument. You can say, well, maybe in some really rare places, Devil's Triangle might not mean what it means everywhere else in the country, but in that little cave or village, it means a drinking game, okay? But I never heard about it until the New Yorker article, and I have texts. Now the FBI is in possession of text messages from before the New Yorker article where he's talking about the Ramirez allegations. That is a stone cold lie. Perjury, indisputable.
And I also want to be clear about something else. The former classmates who are now coming forward are doing so reluctantly. In fact, they did not want to get involved in any of this until after they saw the hearing and they saw the way Brett Kavanaugh presented himself and argued that this is nothing more than a witch hunt. He argued that this is a smear campaign and that he was a great choir boy when he was younger, that he didn't do anything out of the ordinary. It appears that he did, and that's the reason why these individuals are coming out and they're providing this evidence for the FBI investigation. And they're being clear in that they don't know whether or not he actually committed the sexual assaults that he's been accused of. But they do feel that it's their duty to give the FBI whatever information they have so the right conclusion can be drawn from that.
And Kavanaugh is a serial liar. And it definitely makes me question whether he lied about the underlying allegations. Because he doesn't have to lie about any of this. Mm-hmm. So a man in his position could easily say, yeah, I had heard rumors that the New Yorker was looking into a piece about Ramirez. And I know I didn't do anything with Ramirez, so I went to all my friends and said, do you guys remember anything like this? And I tried to get witnesses. Now, some people are saying, witness tampering. This is not a trial, so I'm not sure that I agree with that charge. Besides which, you can say your team did it. Maybe you should have had your team do it, but that you didn't personally do it. That part to me is not important. What's important is the gratuitous lies. The lies that don't need to happen. I like beer, but I never drank too much. Every person who knows you thought you drank too much. And there's nothing ostensibly terribly wrong about somebody drinking too much in college or high school, as long as you didn't do anything terrible when you were that drunk. But when you try to cover everything up, it leads me to believe that you're trying to cover something bigger up. Otherwise, there's no reason to lie about things that are relatively innocuous, like drinking too much beer. Who cares?
So look, aside from disagreements about politics, my number one issue with Kavanaugh was the fact that it appeared that he and Republicans were trying to avoid the investigation. But once the agreement happened and the investigation was going to take place, I don't know if he's guilty or not, and I feel extremely uncomfortable, making a firm judgment on that until we have all the facts in front of us. But now, even if the FBI doesn't find anything in regard to those allegations, either proving or disproving it, the bigger issue would be the fact that he consistently lied throughout that hearing. And that is serious because he is under oath. And remember, if he gets confirmed, he is going to be at the highest level of our justice system. He will be a Supreme Court judge, Supreme Court justice. And so are we comfortable with someone who just flat out lies like that, making decisions defending our Constitution? I don't know. I personally wouldn't be. And you know who else wouldn't be? Lindsey Graham. So let's take a look at what Lindsey Graham had to say about lying under oath back in 1999.
I have argued to you that when you found that a judge was a perjurer, you couldn't in good conscience send him back in a courtroom because everybody that came in that courtroom thereafter would have a real serious doubt. I will argue to you that when you find this president guilty of perjury, if you do, that he has violated his oath and that by a consequence of that, some public trust has been lost.
I totally agree with him on that. I just wish that he would apply that same standard to Supreme Court nominees on the Republican side.
If a federal judge is found to be lying, you've lost trust in him. He's got to go. Lindsey Graham there was arguing for the impeachment of President Bill Clinton because he told a lie. Now, we clearly have Kavanaugh lying about the text here. No question about it. So, Lindsey Graham, are you a man of your word? I know that you like to get all worked up about principles. Well, here's a principle you said. I didn't say it, you said it, right? So are you gonna take action on it? By the way, Kavanaugh is a weird liar. And so if Graham was worried about lies that Clinton told about a consensual affair that Bill Clinton had, wait till you get a load of Kavanaugh. So why do I say he's a weird liar? So in the case of Ramirez, they were at a wedding together and his team worked hard to get a picture of them together at the wedding, presumably to use as evidence of, well, here she is standing next to him, and they're all fine, right? And so and they got that picture. So now it doesn't show any real thing. We can show it to you here. They're very distant, and the woman who
we actually have that photo, so I want to just quickly show it to you. It's graphic 7.
Right, and the woman who's telling us about this is standing next to Ramirez, who's circled there on the left. And she's saying that she basically clung on to her the whole night and didn't want to go near Kavanaugh or his friends. But that's not the relevant part to me, at least in this context. The relevant part is that when Kavanaugh was asked if he had been at a wedding with her, he said, probably. No, but wait a minute, why do you say that? You know you were at the wedding with her. You tried to get the picture of you and her at the wedding together. You're perfectly aware of that. Why would you say probably? He then went on to say, I'm sure I saw her because it wasn't a huge wedding, but that he doesn't have any specific recollection. That is a weird lie, man. You have the picture of you and her at the wedding. I would say, yeah, I was at the wedding with her. Yeah, I remember being at the wedding, but I don't remember much beyond that. But no, even that he's got to lie about. Now, there's something wrong with this guy. And so we came in with an open mind. Every day, evidence mounts that he has been lying all throughout. So far, there's been no evidence that Dr. Blasey Ford has lied. So this is, if it was a mystery, that mystery is becoming less and less interesting every day. One side has been shown to lie over and over and over again, and the other has had their story corroborated not only by other people who talk about the other details, not about the assault, because that was in a room with just Kavanaugh, Judge, and Ford at the time. But every other detail she's given, even corroborated by Brett Kavanaugh's own calendar. So it's becoming a no contest as to who's lying and who's telling the truth. And again, on the issue of the text, there can be no reasonable argument otherwise. And Lindsey Graham, I'm sure, is not only saying pull the nomination, but impeach Kavanaugh, right? Right, Lindsay? Because I know you claim you're a man of your word.
Well, Lindsey Graham maintains that these accusations against Brett Kavanaugh are nothing more than politics, the left trying to smear him. In fact, I want to just quickly remind you of the meltdown that Senator Graham had during the hearing involving Brett Kavanaugh and Dr. Blasey Ford. Let's take a quick look at that.
What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You said that, not me. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham. You're looking for a fair process? You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend.
Now remember, he's accusing Democrats of playing politics, and I think to some extent there are politics involved, which is why I want to make sure that we stick to the facts and not allow any narrative to take control or take hold of what we think, right? Let's stick to the evidence that we have in front of us. But Lindsey Graham, it's rich to hear him talk about politics and how, Democrats are trying to block Kavanaugh because of politics. Remember Merrick Garland? Remember the fact that Obama nominates a Supreme Court justice and Republicans blocked him.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Due to politics, and we have evidence of that as well. Lindsey Graham, at the time, had tweeted a video following his first meeting with Garland, and here's what he had to say.
Just had a good meeting with Judge Garland. He's honest and capable. His reputation's beyond reproach. I've told him that I believe that the Scalia vacancy should be filled by the next president. We're well into the nominating process. I think that's best for the court. I think that's best for the country. Let the voters have a say about who they'd like to be the next Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, we really like Garland, but we're gonna wait over a year until Republicans have some control, and then we'll make a decision.
Lindsey Graham was outraged that we would wait one more week to do an FBI investigation. They waited 14 months on Merrick Garland. And now Lindsey Graham thinks there's politics being played in this town, and he's just shocked by it. When he's on record saying, the other judge was great. We just blocked him because we wanted to play politics. His excuse at the time was let the American people decide in the next election. Lindsey, I got a great news for you. There's an election coming up in 34 days. So we could just wait and let the American people decide. You know what? You guys have a huge advantage in the Senate, and not in the numbers, you're at 51, but most of the people that are up for election this time around the Senate are Democrats. And every political pundit has said for a long time that you guys are likely to keep the Senate. Why don't we let the American people decide? That's your standard, Lindsey. I thought you had principles, Lindsey. I thought you were super mad about people not holding up their own principles.
By the way, that video was shot in April of 2016. As we all know, the election took place in November. So they were fighting aggressively to block Judge Merrick Garland from his confirmation hearings, and they succeeded in that. And you know who bragged about it? Mitch McConnell. Take a look.
One of my proudest moments is when I looked at Barack Obama in the eye and I said, Mr. President, you will not fill this Supreme Court vacancy.
Okay, but all of a sudden, there's politics in this establishment. No one knows. So what was Lindsey Graham mad about? If he's not mad about perjury, okay, and he's not mad about politics, And we know that he's an absolute, by the way, Lindsey Graham, let me just be clear. You're a fraud and you're a sham. That's what you are. Getting all huffy about things that you did 1,000 times worse, okay? So what are they upset about if they're not upset about those things? I don't think he's an actor. I think he was genuinely upset. What's he upset about? How dare you people look into our past? We're all so goddamn angry that you would ever look into our past and the things that we have done to other people. How dare you? It's personal for Lindsey Graham. I wonder why. It's personal for a lot of those old men up there. And they do not want anybody going back and looking at what they might have done. That's why they're so emotional about it. That's why you've got a lot of this and a lot of and all those faces that they put forward. It ain't about principles. That's nothing but a lie. It's about, hey, whatever you do, don't look in my closet. Don't look anywhere where you might find the skeletons I've buried. So, and that's what in a sense, the whole movement is about, is finding out what went wrong so that we can make sure that we don't put those people back in charge in the most powerful places in this country. And they do not want to let go of their power under any circumstance, no matter what they've done.
We got to take a break. When we come back, another former student who knows Brett Kavanaugh well disclosed a bar fight that Kavanaugh was involved in. And some of those details are pretty relevant.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Let's go to the comment section. Gabby Marita says, this is the members' comments. There are two types of post-game shows that I absolutely love. When Cenk tells us stories about his adventures with Kiki Cat, and more importantly, number two, when Anna gets righteous and goes off on a topic that is boiling her blood.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Okay, neither can we, Gabby.
For sure.
Okay. TYT.com/join to become a member. We'll check that thermometer a little bit later so that you can get those post games. The liberal mom writes in, also a member. So now Kavanaugh got into a bar fight after a UB40 concert. We're going to tell you about that in a second. And apparently he was drinking too much red wine.
Is that UB40?
Yes.
I love that song.
That's right.
No, I still love that song. It reminds me of my childhood.
Yeah, and bar fights, that's right. Liberal mom ends by saying, the mom jokes will be here all night, folks. I appreciate that, liberal mom. Last one from the member section. Jay Maglio writes in, the Republicans know they're going to lose this midterm election. They're going to vote Kavanaugh in. Getting a conservative Supreme Court for 2 decades is way more important than controlling Congress for 2 years. Unfortunately, there's a lot of truth to that, and it might be 3 or 4 decades. So they think, yeah, short-term victory for the Democrats, even if we get killed in this election, long-term victory for us. And last one's YouTube super chat. Left is best writes in, let's not forget, Kavanaugh is a federal judge already. If he lied to the Senate as a judge, he needs to be removed. And so that goes to Sheldon White's house, I believe it was, that said, I don't care what happens, we're going to chase him down to the end of the earth. If it turns out that we can prove that he's lying, we will come back to this issue after the elections. And we will keep going until we have the truth.
Look at the Democrats being strong. What's happening?
I know, it's a weird world. I mean, we're not used to it.
I think they've been watching the Young Turks.
Well, obviously. All right, what's next?
Okay. A former classmate of Brett Kavanaugh's has decided to come forward with a story involving Kavanaugh and an individual that he engaged in a bar fight with. Now, this is a Yale student, former Yale student, who did not want to initially come forward, but he says that after hearing Kavanaugh minimize his drinking habits and his behavior when he was a college student, he felt that he needed to share the details of this story with the public. So his name is Charles Ludigan, and he was a former Yale University basketball player. And he is scheduled to meet with the FBI and talk about what he knows. And he will discuss Kavanaugh's alleged role in instigating a bar fight more than 3 decades ago. Now, he did speak to Chris Cuomo on CNN. And so I don't want to put words in his mouth. Let's hear what he has to say about this bar fight.
Chris Dudley and Brett Kavanaugh and I went to a UB40 concert. They were a popular reggae band of the 1980s. So after the concert, we went to a bar called Demery's, and we were drinking, and I assumed beer, but at some point we looked over at this fellow who looked very similar to the lead singer of UB40, a guy named Ali Campbell. Well, he saw us looking at him and didn't like the fact that we were looking at them. So he said something like, what the hell are you looking at? And I said, oh, we just thought you were the lead singer of UB40. And he said something fairly aggressive, frankly, I'm not, and screw off, or something to that degree. And at that point, Brett took umbrage at this and threw his beer at the guy. I actually now found out from the report that it wasn't beer, that I had misremembered. It was ice cubes and whatever the drink was that he was drinking. And, the fellow, says, yeah, Brett said, you, or something to that effect, and threw the ice at the guy. And the guy, understandably, even though he had been aggressive in his response, found that was a little one step too far. So he took a swing at Brett, and then they were kind of, two guys fighting. That was all very quick. And then at that point, Chris Dudley, who had his drink in his hand, proceeded to smash it up against the guy's head.
I'm gonna just make Cuomo's face every time you talk from now on. Anyway.
So he did accidentally curse on air, by the way. Part of the reason for Cuomo's face. But to be fair, he had that face throughout. All right, so to the substance. Now, look, guys, if you're wondering, why are we talking about this bar fight from when they were in college? There's a really good reason why. And a lot of people are gonna get misled because there's a lot of propaganda out there. They'll be like, oh, they're judging the guy for a fight he got into when he was in college. No, we're not. No, we're not. I've gotten into bar fights. And was it over stupid stuff like that? Yes. When is a bar fight over something intelligent? Right?
Just a quick side note. Don't call women, and I know you don't, but don't call women overly emotional and irrational ever again. Like, women don't engage in random bar fights, ever. Well, maybe sometimes they do.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, but
guys do more.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And we do get a little emotional when somebody says screw off or whatever, right?
It's so ridiculous.
I know, it's so silly. But we were all kids, we were all young, we all had a lot of testosterone, et cetera, right? So that's not the issue, guys. The issue is that Kavanaugh is a weird liar. He keeps saying, look, I never drank to excess. Look, I didn't even drink till I was 22, but if you ask me, did you ever drink too much? The answer is, hell yes, I've drank too much on many occasions, right? I remember after the bar exam, leaning over a gutter. I mean, I can give you 1,000 examples, so can you, right? But this guy, nope, he literally said that he was a choir boy in the Fox News interview, and that actually set off some of his classmates. They're like, you were a choir boy? Dude, that guy, Chad Luddington, that you just saw, was one of his friends. They went to the concert together. They apparently drank some red wine together. I got that from a viewer. Okay. Hey, here's looking at you, liberal mom. Okay. And so they were all playing. Chris Dudley's a former NBA player. And Dudley's like, yeah, no, everything was fine. Brett never drank to excess. And Chad, the guy you just saw, he's like, I'm done with Chris too. He's like, what are you lying for? Of course we drank too much.
Look, the reason why Kavanaugh's lying about drinking too much is because he doesn't want anyone to make the argument that he could have done what he was accused of doing after blacking out while drunk, right? And so that's why he minimizes his drinking. But we now know, based on the accounts of several people who went to school with him, that he did drink, he drank a lot. And by the way, I don't think it's a small thing to throw a cup of ice at someone. The police report indicates that the individual that he threw the ice at was bleeding. Okay, so that's assault. Anyone else, you're talking about, and by the way, obviously he's not facing a criminal investigation for that, but it's not just a small thing. It shows that his behavior when he was younger is not how he described it during his hearing.
Okay, I'm super biased because I've thrown things at people.
Well, you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have.
Right.
And honestly, if you were, up for a lifetime appointment as a Supreme Court justice, even you, someone I know personally and I admire quite a bit, I would be like, no, homeboy's lying. I don't know why he's doing it.
No, but I wouldn't lie about it.
Right.
I mean, that's why I just told you right now. So at my Supreme Court hearings, you will see this tape, and I won't lie about it. Okay. Anyway, to be fair to Kavanaugh. The guy didn't get cut from the ice. So he throws the ice at him, then they get into a fight. Then his buddy Chris Dudley, who's the star basketball player at Yale at the time, comes into the fight, takes a glass and smashes it against the guy's face.
Jeez.
The guy's bleeding from that. Dudley's hand got cut and was also bleeding, and they were worried about his career. And maybe it did affect his career, and that's why he sucks for all those years. Anyone who is a basketball fan knows that Chris Dudley was paid more to suck than anyone in NBA history. Okay, so anyway, that's a random note. So bottom line is, you could easily say all these things, and I've drank to excess on occasions, and I never blacked out. So you can say, hey, okay, I drank plenty, but I never blacked out. It's not that hard. But his instinct, his go-to move, Kavanaugh, in almost every one of these stories is lie first, pretend you're a super choir boy. All I ever did was work out and have beers. And my daddy, it was one of the funnier parts. I thought his dad was dead. Okay, the way that he was speaking about his dad, did you see that? He's like, my daddy used to take good notes. I love my dad. I was like, I got all worked up. I got a little emotional at that. I talked about it on day one. And it turns out I wasn't alone. Everybody assumed his dad was dead. No, his dad was right behind him.
Kavanaugh's dad?
Yeah, Kavanaugh's dad is not dead. He was right behind him in the hearings.
He loves his dad.
No, loving your dad, that's a great thing. That's why, there was a part of that opening statement that I empathized with and that I made clear on day one. But this is now 18 lies too many. And there's another Yale classmate, Richard Unger, who's like, him, a choir boy? No. He's like, look, we went to Deke, and Deke was also a party frat at my school, and he's like, we drank heavily. Pretending that we didn't drink heavily is insanity. I don't know why he's lying about that. Ooh, I know.
Well, I'm gonna move on. We're gonna go to a Trump rally. We're gonna go together. Emma's gonna take us there, so let's move on to that story. Our very own Emma Vigeland went to yet another Trump rally, and she wanted to ask the Trump supporters what they think about this whole Brett Kavanaugh case. Do they believe the accusations? Could there possibly be some credibility to the accusations? And without giving too much away, let's take a look at the first video and see what they had to say.
Brett Kavanaugh, what do you think of the allegations of his accuser?
False. I think he is a good guy, and I don't think it's he said, she said, and I believe him.
So what about the accusations against Bill Clinton? Because there have been numerous, just like Kavanaugh.
He's guilty. He's guilty, and there's proof that he's guilty.
So why is, what's the proof versus Kavanaugh?
Well, we got the blue dress, and then we have Juanita Broderick, and she had proof that it was him, so there's the proof.
But, Monica Lewinsky maintains it was consensual, even though she was kind of coerced into it.
Well, she could say what she wants. If you get paid enough, you'll say anything. He lied under oath.
And said that I did not have sexual relationship with that woman. He lied under oath. As the sitting president, not happening. It should not have happened.
So I'm just drawing the comparison because obviously there have been multiple accusations against Kavanaugh as well. What do you think is different about those?
I think personally because he's on the Republican side and there's a witch hunt.
They're amazing, man.
They are amazing.
So, if you ask me, did Bill Clinton lie? Yeah, of course he lied, right? And so they went to look after a real estate deal. They actually did a witch hunt and got into his personal sex life for reasons that no one even remembers anymore. They were supposed to be talking about a whitewater land deal in Arkansas. How did we get to the blue dress from there? Anyway, they went and they're like, dig. Who cares? He didn't do the Arkansas thing. At the end, Ken Starr said he didn't do it. Who cares? We got him on something else. We wanted to get him and we got him, right? Now, okay, but he did lie, right? Now, because we live in the reality-based world, okay? But Kavanaugh also appears to be lying. Not appears, we now know. And maybe they don't know every detail, to be fair to them, right? But you guys saw that testimony. Why is it your gut instinct is, if he's a Republican, he's telling the truth, he's an honorable man, a wonderful person, and said that liar is lying about him. Bill Clinton, I hate him, he's a Democrat. Okay, look, the blue dress, Monica Lewinsky is one thing, and it's consensual. Kavanaugh's was not consensual, giant difference, right? But Juanita Broderick, okay, you say that one's not consensual, but she doesn't have a blue dress. She doesn't have.
There was no evidence.
There was no evidence.
So let me just
why do you automatically believe Juanita Broderick, but you don't believe Blasey Ford? Why?
Politics, period. So by the way, I thought after I watched that, I don't automatically think, oh, they're Trump supporters, I'm not gonna take them seriously. The first thing that came to my mind was, oh, wait a minute, maybe there's something I missed. So let me go back and look at the Broderick accusations and see if there was any evidence or something that could potentially lead to evidence. And guess what I found? No evidence. Now, does that mean that her accusations were 100% false? No, it doesn't mean that, right? But there was no evidence. In fact, back in 1997, Juanita Broderick signed an affidavit, sworn affidavit, saying that there was no unwanted advances from Bill Clinton. 1 year later, she came out and said, no, I'm going to recant that. Okay, but so did he or did he not? Anyway, my point is there was no evidence, and why don't we compare apples to apples when it comes to lying? So Bill Clinton did lie. He said he did not have sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky. We know that that's a lie, and that's unacceptable. So I agree with her on that. But please spare me the crocodile tears about, oh, Bill Clinton lied and he was wrong for that. You have a president now who lies on literally a daily basis. Every single day. He paid off an adult actress prior to the election and lied about it on multiple occasions.
Just admit it. You don't care about the lying. You just don't care. So please stop. Ironically, you're lying. You know Trump's a liar. You know he's a serial liar, a pathological liar. He said he didn't have sex with, to this day, he maintains he didn't have sex with Stormy Daniels. Then he just randomly paid her $130,000 for a made up story that he didn't do. Do you believe that? He, by the way, had said earlier that he didn't pay her off. Then he said he did pay her off. So, a proven lie, we have the evidence. Oh no, Trump's a good man. Get the hell out of here. All you care about is politics. And so you've been brainwashed, etc. And look, if we try to have a consistent standard, but maybe we're suckers, because they don't play by the same rules. They don't care about the rules. They just don't give a damn. They're like, that's my team. I wear a red hat, and that stands for my team. I don't give a goddamn what Trump has done or Kavanaugh has done or who they have sexually assaulted over and over, and the millions of lies that like literally dozens, in the case of Trump, hundreds of lies that they have told. Your guy told one lie about a consensual affair. You dirty, immoral people. You stained the office. Stained the office. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so we have one more video, and I do encourage you to watch the full video, and we will link to it in the description box below. Emma does a great job at these rallies, and you should watch those videos. Let's take a look at the next one.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
Even if something did happen, he would have been 17 years old. He would have been a juvenile, and she was 15. She was a juvenile. Why are they at a house drinking beer in the first place. I would not allow my daughters to go out in those situations, and nor my sons.
Another question is, where was all her family? Where was all her support? Her husband wasn't there. Her mother wasn't there. Her father wasn't there. Where were her children?
You mean at the hearing?
Yeah, at the hearing. Come on.
Why do you need to see her family at the hearing? How is that relevant at all to this conversation? I mean, it's pathetic. But anyway, I just want to quickly address the first guy in that video who essentially blamed Dr. Blasey Ford for being at that party in the first place, and then followed that by saying, I wouldn't let my daughter or my son go to a party like that. I have news for you. Your daughter or your son or whatever children you have are going to go behind your back and do things that you are not going to want them to do. And if something bad happens to them, I sure hope that you're not going to turn around and blame them for something terrible that someone else has done to them, okay?
Yeah, some chance his kids are at that party while he's at the Trump rally. Okay, really? You're positive you know where your teenage kids are at all times? I mean, to turn around and blame her parents now after all these years? So let me get this right though, because I just want to understand his logic. So the guy who attempted the rape and covered her mouth and turned up the radio and tried to rip her clothes off, not guilty. Her parents, who didn't realize that she wasn't at the pool but was at a party, are the ones that are guilty. Like, we should judge them, but we should not judge the guy trying to rip her clothes off. I just want to be clear, because he did say in the beginning, even if he did do it.
It's so discouraging to see this stuff. And to also experience people on social media just constantly smearing the accusers before they know the facts. And but when I say smearing them as sluts, as whores, I mean, you see it all over the place. And it's really sad. It's sad to see people turn individuals in positions of extreme privilege into victims, because that is not what's happening here.
No, because it's personal, and it's actually more depressing than that, because there's real inexplicable anger first of all, go on any social media, right? Go in the comment section of this video, you'll see it. You'll see it in every video we do about Kavanaugh. And go on your own social media and you'll see it. There's this visceral reaction of, it's her fault. She's a liar, she's this, she's that. Based on what evidence? It's not about evidence, it's not about logic. It's about their feelings. And their feelings are, maybe I did something similar and I don't want you looking into my life, so I'm gonna call you a liar and I'm gonna make this personal. So that's what I see from Lindsey Graham. That's what I see from a lot of the comments in the social media. It's not usually, she's a lying whore, whatever they say it 1,000 different ways. It's not usually followed up by, and let me give you the evidence. And here's my evidence against Dr. Blasey Ford and my evidence in favor of Kavanaugh. No, it's just about their feelings. And their feelings got hurt because one man might actually be held to account for what he did to a woman.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I will show you clear evidence of how Trump treats women, especially female reporters, and how the White House tries to cover it up.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. Back on the Young Turks. First of all, NordVPN, dudes. I don't know why I was about to say dudes. Check it out. You need to protect your computer and all the places you've been on your computer. I don't know if Kavanaugh is getting this down. That's not right. Okay, anyways, 66% off if you use nordvpn.com/TYT. Thousands of servers all over the world and military-grade encryption. So make sure you're going to nordvpn.com/TYT or using the code TYT to get that 66% off. Otherwise, you can't do it. That's for a 2-year membership. All right, now your comments. YouTube Super Chat. B. Young says, keep up the great work, TYT. Why, thank you, appreciate it. Appreciate you using YouTube Super Chat. Izumi Ashura writes in on Twitter, Trump's first wife had a police report that Trump raped her and then took it back. Trump voters bend over backwards. They're all nuts. Now, she didn't, to be fair, it was not a police report. But it was a deposition. It was in the divorce proceedings. and she kind of mostly took it back. She didn't take back what happened. She just said she doesn't call it rape anymore, okay? So if you're worried about Juanita Broaddrick, you should be way at least as worried about what happened to Ivana Trump. And that's according to her own testimony, but that would require you to care about facts. Okay, Bipolar Colbert writes in, who gets into a fight after a UB40 concert?
I know, for real.
That's like getting into a fight after a Grateful Dead concert. Kavanaugh is a weirdly angry, drunk guy.
Yeah.
It's true, man. Like, oh man, the Grateful Dead got me all worked up. Let's go fight. Anyway.
Have you ever been to a Grateful? No, you haven't.
Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. Concerts are so awkward. Anyways.
No, they're so much fun. I went to a Pink Floyd like cover band show once, and there were, I'm not kidding you, like retired gentlemen in the aisles on something, just dancing. And it was great.
Look, bless their hearts. If they're into it and they're on something, then go forward. Okay. Jordan Joe 15 writes in, Trump is holding a rally in my hometown of Rochester, Minnesota this Thursday.
I'm sorry.
He says, please send us your thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers.
And he says, just kidding. We'll all be out protesting because action leads to changing, not thoughts and prayers. Okay. Well, you never know. You might see TYT there. There was a sign that one of the protesters held at the one Emma just went to saying, warning, watch out for the media like CBS, New York Times, and Young Turks. Okay, indeed. Last one here. This is fun. Baker Brigade says, I like TYT. I still like TYT. I watch TYT. It's legal. I like TYT. We like TYT, my friends and I.
No, okay, look, this video, I was trying to find a way to like put it into one of the stories we have prepared, okay? But it's not gonna make it. So since he referenced it, can we please show this video?
Yeah.
BuzzFeed did this mashup of all the different times Brett Kavanaugh mentioned beer in the hearing. And this is video 8 for the director. And it's just wonderful. I love it. Let's take a look.
I drank beer with my friends. We drank beer, my friends and I. Sometimes I had too many beers. Yes, we drank beer. I liked beer, still like beer. We drank beer. In any event, we drank beer and still do. I think you've probably had beers, Senator. I liked beer. I still like beer. The calendars show a few weekday gatherings at friends' houses after a workout or just to meet up and have some beers. You ever played quarters?
You ever play quarters?
None of those were repeats. I always find it interesting how often he repeats the same word in one sentence or in one statement. And by the way, like he did that when he was making a statement once about his friends. And I'm like, that doesn't sound, it just doesn't flow. Like, do better.
Yeah. No, and I got to give credit to Matt Damon in that SNL opening. Man, that was devastatingly funny. We like to work out and then drink beers. So this is the random stuff if you watch the live show. You know, you don't get this in all the clips. But watch the show live 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, okay? And if you miss any portion of it, tyt.com/join to become a member. We have nothing but fun on this show. And oftentimes there's insanity in the control room.
Oftentimes.
Okay, what's next?
All right. Following the new deal regarding trade with Mexico and with Canada, Donald Trump wanted to brag about how he's a great negotiator by holding a press conference at the Rose Garden. And there was one particular female reporter who wanted to ask him a question. Her name is Cecilia Vega. You might be familiar with her work on ABC News. And the way Trump addressed her was problematic to say the least. So let's take a look at that exchange.
Question? Yeah, go ahead. Sure. She's shocked that I picked her. She's like in a state of shock.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
In a tweet this weekend, Mr. President.
He's such a weirdo, man.
So he said, "You're never thinking," which is ridiculous. But the thing that actually, so look, that is to be expected from Trump. I don't think we should normalize it, but this isn't the first time he has spoken to a woman in that way. He's referred to women as pigs in the past. He's bragged about, grabbing them by the genitals without consent. I mean, this is par for the course when it comes to Trump. What bothered me was the commentary after the fact. Now, first off, the transcript of this exchange was edited to make it appear as though Trump said, "I know you're not thanking, you never do."
What a stupid lie. Come on, you MAGA dudes, you really thought he said, "You're not thanking, you never do." What does that mean? She didn't say thank you. That makes no sense in that context. And you heard it with your own ears. I know you live in an alternate reality with alternate facts. And so you think, was it thanking? Maybe I heard thanking. I'm gonna rewind and convince myself it was thanking. No, it was, you're never thinking, you never do. So because that's a thing people say. They don't say, you weren't thanking, you never do. It's not a thing people say.
Exactly.
And so, by the way, just so you understand what political correctness, because apparently your dear leader loves political correctness. It was when the Soviets and yes, the Nazis would literally change government documents so that they were not factually correct, but that they were politically correct. They didn't care what the facts were. They changed them to make them, that's where the term originates from, politically correct. And that's what Trump does all the time. This is now at least half a dozen times they've changed the transcript because it was inconvenient what the dumbass leader said. But the guys who changed the transcripts are even dumber. It's on tape. We just showed it. We can show it again. Everybody knows he said what he said. Every reporter on the scene was like, he said thinking, not thinking. But you doctored the transcript thinking, oh, they'll never catch on.
So the White House eventually, after some backlash, did correct the record, and they did change the transcript to reflect what Trump actually said. So I wanted to make sure I give you that update. But now to the.
But can I just say, for the minute or so that you didn't know that, you MAGA guys, why don't you go ahead and admit you were thinking, oh no, it was thinking. It was thinking.
Of course.
Oops, it was thinking.
Okay, so now to the commentary following the exchange, which actually surprisingly bothered me more than the exchange, because as I already mentioned, this is something that I would expect from Trump. Nothing shocks me from him anymore. But there was a lot of support for Cecilia Vega, and there was a lot of praise for the way she handled it, because as you can see, she said, "Excuse me," and then she moved on to her question. And I think, look, if that's the way she wanted to handle it, that's up to her. Good on you, do you, boo. But I hate the pressure to never be confrontational if you're a woman, right? Handle it with grace. No. How about everybody shut up and let her handle it the way that she sees fit? So if she wants to be aggressive and more confrontational, she should have every right to do so, because she is not the one who provoked any situation here. It was the President of the United States who thought that it would be acceptable to accuse a female journalist of never thinking, okay? So if she wanted to be more aggressive, then no one has the right to be angry at her for that or to criticize her for that. There's only one person who's wrong in this situation, and it was Donald Trump. I'm just tired of the pressure that women face regarding how they react to things. Be calm, be graceful, be classy. No, how about you shut up and you let her handle it the way she sees fit?
And there's a double standard not just between men and women, but between Trump and non-Trump people. So how come we never ask him to be graceful? I mean, he's a bully through and through. He does it, and maybe you could argue, hey, he does it to everybody. Remember to the male reporter who was disabled and how he viciously mocked that reporter? Why isn't there ever a standard where he should be a decent human being for a second? And of course I agree with Anna. I've had a great range of reactions when I've been challenged in the past, from calm and sarcasm to not at all calm and flipping things on him. I told this story in a post game for the members, where there's some guy, we got in a fight in a tennis court, and he called me fat, which is true enough, but he was about twice my size. So I got next to his gut and I was like, you're calling me fat. You're calling me fat. In this case, if Cecilia Vega came and said, did you just say, I'm never thinking, Mr. President? I just want to be clear. Donald Trump just claimed somebody else is never thinking. That would have been a perfectly fine reaction. She had no obligation to be graceful. If I would have gone back at him like that, And if she went back at him like that, I'm sure that they would have criticized her and it's called her biased, etc. How about his bias? How about his bias against the entirety of the news, calling them fake news and lying about it day in, day out? How about him, for no reason at all, whether it had to do with gender or not, totally attacking this reporter out of thin air?
Out of thin air, exactly.
I know you weren't thinking, you never do. Why? Why would you say that to someone? Because you're a terrible person.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I promise there is some good news. It does involve Bernie Sanders, so don't miss that story. And then later on, it appears that behind the scenes, the White House is trying to undo some of the progress we've made with marijuana legalization.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.